You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today. But before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Choctaw Nation. Now, the Choctaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. So a huge shout out to Governor Anatoby for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is presented by the Choctaw Nation. The Choctaw people have a rich history and a bright future. At the Choctaw Cultural Center, you can take part in a story 14,000 years in the making. Stroll through our immersive exhibits portraying Choctaw life from the moment our ancestors emerged from the Nani Weha in Mississippian homelands to the Trail of Tears, where we lost so many loved ones, and finally to the modern-day tribe making a positive impact on local communities throughout southeastern Oklahoma. Try your hand at our social dancing and stickball and learn more about our vibrant culture through demonstrations, workshops, and classes. The kids will have a blast in our Luxie Activity Center. The Choctaw Cultural Center is more than a museum. It's a living, breathing experience. Visit choctawculturalcenter.com to plan your visit. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode down in Durant, Oklahoma today. It's been a while since I've been down here, probably... Well, I'm going to age myself, but it's been since college, which is 7-8 years ago. But it's beautiful down here. I think I got here just in the nick of time because there was a huge storm coming. Typical May in Oklahoma. But it's a pleasure to introduce back on the podcast Chief Gary Batton. Thank you for inviting me into your office.
Mike, well, thank you very much for doing this podcast and doing the previous one and coming to Durant and hopefully experiencing our growth that we're having here and of course the impact that the Texas market is having on us here. And I'm so thankful that you came to our headquarters today so that you could see about our culture and history, because that's really who we are as Choctaw Nation, and to see that on display here. I hope you're able to experience all of that.
I got to look a little walk around earlier, and you know, as you walk into this building, right, you got the store to the right, and you look up and you see this whole, you know, the huge seal above you. Like that's really cool. It took me a while to notice it. I didn't notice it straight away, and then took a walk down the hall of governors, and then obviously your picture and everybody else's, but who's currently in is on the left. But congratulations, you're back in for 4 years, I guess.
Yes, I'm excited. You know, to run unopposed again. I'm excited. But the reason why I'm excited is that we get to continue doing the good work that the staff of mine and our tribal council, everybody always, we always say together we're more, and I truly believe that we are able to pull together. The rising tide rises all ships, and so I'm just feeling very blessed to be there, but ready to get back to work and ready to get things moving for our Choctaw people and our communities and for the state of Oklahoma, which, by the way, I hope you noticed when you came in, most people see the seal. What they don't realize is the formation, the circular formation is a couple things. One, it's the formation of one of our traditional homes, and then also, I don't know if you noticed that it favors basketry around the edge of it, so it also kind of displays our basketry. So anyway, there's all throughout our headquarters here. You'll see tribal members' artwork as well as design and all that. We've tried to incorporate as much culture and heritage as we could.
How long have you been in there? 'Cause it's quite a new building, right? It looks new.
I think we moved in here in 2016, if I remember right. 2016, 17, somewhere in there. Sure was.
Nice. And you know, it's I think obviously, you know, when you walk out there, and I know this obviously from when we chatted in November, for people listening, episode 475, which I'll put in the link in the description, was our previous episode where you told most of your, you know, your life story and how we get to where we are, so we don't have to go over that again today. But I think it's really nice, and I know from that episode that, you know, you like to be out. You know, you don't want to be tucked away 8th floor, kind of in the back, you know, corner office. You know, you're on the ground floor, and you get to walk out there and greet people, and you're right behind the check-in desk, right?
Yes,
you know,
right here on first floor, which I'm supposed to be available to our tribal members and to our constituents, and so that's what I try to do here, though. But you know, it just always makes me think about a full journey. You know, the city of Durant. I couldn't remember if we mentioned this before, but in 1979, we regained our Constitution. In 1983, we ratified it, which meant that we had our first election in 1983 again for our chief. And after that chief was elected, they sent out a request for proposals to see which city would be willing to take the Choctaw Nation. The only one that offered was the city of Durant, and they offered the old Presbyterian College. So we were in that. Matter of fact, we still use that office building, and but it had just gotten too small. I mean, you know, we have 12,000 employees now total. When I started in 1987, I think I mentioned this before, we had 110. You know, so we've seen significant growth, but we had over 30 different locations rented or leased here in Durant. And so it's just better collaboration. It's better camaraderie. You know, I think we're more efficient and effective by us being all here in this one particular location.
So, I mean, bringing things to current day, what has really changed in the last, you know, since we spoke in November? I mean, obviously being, you know, signing, I guess, another 4 years, however you properly phrase it, running, you know, uncontested, but what's changed? What's been going on? I mean, you're busy all the time. I know that much.
Well, I think for us is I try to stick to our strategy. You know, I'm very much a person that believes in strategic planning. And so, of course, the number one thing at the forefront for us as Choctaw Nation always is to improve the lives of our tribal members. And so we're doing that through job opportunities. So that's the reason why we're investing in Hoge Town in a poverty-stricken area, $220 million, creation of 400 jobs. You know, we're trying to decentralize a lot of our now work from home. So we're trying to decentralize a lot of our various functions. And that's not saying that this building will be empty, because it's already full. Matter of fact, we were at capacity as soon as we moved in here, even though we created 25% more capacity. But if we can decentralize IT, HR, and all those types of things, then we help grow the economy in the lower poverty-stricken areas. And so we're doing that. Housing's been a big issue for us. So we built 765 homes. Our goal was 1,000. So we've got another, 235 still left to build. However, our council, we've already passed another 600 homes to be constructed after that. So that's great, because there's just not enough homes in this area, whether in the private sector or for tribal members. So housing is just inadequate, I think, probably across the state of Oklahoma. And so we're doing that. Our culture and our language is mission critical to me. I think COVID really sparked or created an awareness in me, I would say, because so many of our elders passed that were traditionalists, as I call them, that spoke the language, that knew our traditions and customs. And so for me, when we came back, we said, how do we make sure? We have we're in 89 different schools, we're in various colleges, but nobody speaks it fluently. And that's include myself. So we started an apprenticeship program. So we have just 5 right now, but their job is to learn the language. And so they are doing an awesome job. Just within 3 months, they're speaking fluently. Now they're around people so that they can constantly speak it. Now it will become sustainable. We're also doing another thing. It's called a nesting program, and we're doing that in Broken Bow area, and that's where our elders are having meetings in the afternoons with the youth, and they're teaching them the language. I believe both will be successful, but I think the sustainability piece, when you're a young kid, it's like me learning English, because it's just automatic. You just do it because that's even before I diagrammed a sentence, you just automatically learn to do it. So I think we will see the language sustained because of that. But those two things are mission critical for us. And so improving the lives of our tribal members by protection of our culture and history and so on. Also, sovereignty and culture is another area that I kind of highlighted that we want to make sure and focus on. And now, since the McGirt ruling, we have to look at how do we as a nation, how do we make sure to give people good due process? I mean, we have systems in place, but now it's becoming amplified. We've always had our court system. Now we're having 12 to 1,500 cases a month. And how do we deal with that? And so we're looking at, of course, I don't know if you noticed when you drove into the headquarters here, the first building there to the right was our judicial building, our courthouse. And so now we have a first full-time judge ever. We have our appellate judges, if you will, and then what we call our Constitutional Review Board, which is our Supreme Court of the Choctaw Nation, if you will. So we're building that capacity. So law enforcement, we're looking at how we can partner with other agencies for incarceration. Of course, I would like to think, I've always believed that government is the strongest at its lowest level. And so we have recovery center. We have Chihololi, which is a treatment facility for women with children that have alcohol and substance abuse. And my point being is we have 140 different programs that help our tribal members job for the day, so if they need a job. So we're able to help these people get back on their feet rather than just incarcerate is our goal. And so anyway, so we're looking at how we can do that. And then of course with sovereignty, there's child welfare. So we're doing everything we can to beef up our internal processes to make sure that we can help our people the best way that we can. And then also trying to balance that with how does that work within the community? Because we have the ability to make our own codes, our own laws, if you will. And we just want to make sure that we're trying to stay consistent as possible while exercising our sovereignty. And so that's constantly a battle. And so that protection of sovereignty and our culture is services to our people, protection of sovereignty and culture. They achieved digital transformation. Whenever we went through COVID again, we just did not have the capacity. We sent tablets home with our youth, but they weren't able to use them. So we're looking at how can we make sure, and we're partnering again with the private sector to make sure that we do those things. And then become employer of choice. That competition is always out there. And of course, it seems like since COVID, again, I hate to focus so much on COVID, but there seems like there is, I don't know if people are more purpose-driven, meaning trying to find the jobs that they love, but to get people to find employment is becoming more and more difficult. We have about 800 positions open at any particular time. And so we're doing everything from benefits to all of our packages and to see how we can get people recruited, hired, and retained. To me, the most important part, our retention, we've seen a 20% reduction in our retention because of focus on how we handle people. It's interesting. We do a 2-week pay period. A lot of people needed money in bi-weekly. And so we started doing that, a weekly opportunity. I can't remember. We've had out of the 12,000, 4,000 that has taken advantage of that. And what's interesting is that we judge that because now we have more people. We were losing a lot of people at 90 days. Now they're staying with us for more than a year, and they're starting to get their retirement. All those types of things. So it's a wonderful thing to see that happen.
Yeah.
So those are just some of the things that we're focusing on right now.
Yeah, well, there's so many things in there that we can expand on. You mentioned COVID, like everyone kind of, if there's a job opportunity for them to work from home, they want to work from home, right?
Exactly.
That's what they want to do now. And I think, there's been bigger companies, especially around the state, that have called people back in, and, the employees are not happy about it because they were, given in their original job offer, they were said they get to work from home, and now they're not. So we don't have to talk about that, but I think that's a big thing, right? You want to be able to, some people like to roll out of bed, put their pajamas, keep their pajamas on, and, just dress from the waist up, I guess. But,
the thing for me is, I believe there's a mixture. I think what COVID did is open our eyes in regards to, you can hold people accountable. Still, they can still work from home. So not all jobs can be done from home. And some jobs can be done from home and come to the office. So it's just a matter of making sure, and that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that we meet. The market used to be, hey, we have these jobs, come to us. Now it's, hey, we have these jobs, how can we meet your needs?
Right. Yeah. You mentioned Hoge Town, and just kind of, and this all kind of ties in as well with what you said with housing, because the amount of just attention that area has now had, right, in the last couple of years, and the buildings that are going on down there, the beautiful cabins, and obviously you guys have known that place has been beautiful for a long time. It's just taken the rest of Oklahoma to realize that, and now, like you said, Texas market to realize that as well. And I'm sure there's a lot of kind of like push and shove around people just who have grown up there that love it, that don't want people coming in. And then you have a lot of people saying, no, we'll buy and we'll invest in it down there. And then, the businesses grow, the places grow, but obviously thousands of people are coming in. I obviously, because I don't live down there, I personally think it's great. It's a super place. And I heard rumors that like Disney is having a park there and all this stuff, right? That would be amazing. People wouldn't have to fly to either coast to go to Disney.
Exactly.
But, I think just that in general, that whole place, town, whether it's fishing, whether it's just coming for a cabin weekend, and, there's so many restaurants that could open, but it starts with infrastructure, right? And at the moment, there isn't much at all. So interested to hear kind of like what that's been like from your perspective logistically, and obviously the excitement of bringing outside dollars into the town, but also how do you manage that, right? Because that's the issue.
Well, I think when you come to rural Oklahoma, like we are within the Choctaw Nation Reservation, you always have to look at all the city's infrastructure. As a matter of fact, we're using $49 million of our ARPA dollars to help build up a lot of the water and sewer systems. I supported Hoge Town into becoming their own city. Now they're going to have to create the tax base for fire, for law enforcement, for all those types of things. And so I think they're going to get there. And so I'm excited about that. But we've always, my point being is we've always, though, had to invest in infrastructure for a lot of our cities. I don't know if you noticed when you even coming up here, there's a water tower that's going up. There was an existing water tower. We put both of those here in Durant. When we did that, yes, it helped get us water to this location, to our headquarters, to our casino, to our cultural center, all those types of things. But more importantly, though, it gave the ability for all people to grow. And again, that rising tide rises all ships, and then you start seeing other people developing housing. And again, for us, that's what we want to see. We want to see other people invest their dollars. I was excited because NBC interviewed me last week or the week before, and in our partnership with Reba, and to see how that feeder, if you will. Now there's other people. They're looking at other businesses coming in wanting to acquire land. Starbucks is, we always joke, Starbucks is coming to Atoka. Yeah. So it's great to see when you can put feeders in areas. I call them feeders, and then they start growing. Hoge Town was fortunate. They had the feeders of the cabins, and they do have the beautiful country. So I hope that our casino goes down there, sparks the second wave of that growth. But they are going to need to. Oklahoma's been great to work with. They're already looking at because the driving, the safety is an issue, and it's getting worse, jammed up and backed up and so on. So they're working on that. We're working with them, as well as they're working on their own plan on water, sewer, infrastructures. But every city we go into, typically we know we're going to have to assist them because it's just that they're just so tax ridden already. And just to sustain what they have, their tax dollars typically have to go for that.
Yeah. I'm glad we have it in Oklahoma, right? And it's glad, for you, it's nice to have it within the nation's boundaries and on nation land, that you get to be a part of it and, kind of a seat at the table and get to use the resources, but also kind of when you have ownership in something, you put a lot more effort into it, right?
Definitely.
Always. You mentioned Reba. Tell me about the partnership with Reba, because that's really cool.
Well, I think it's been, for us, it's been a great investment. Of course, Reba grew up about 30 miles from where I grew up. And my uncle actually worked for her, and then of course she went to Southeastern, I went to Southeastern. But so my point being is there's been a lot of these connections, but with Reba and with her name recognition and so on, it's been great. And I'm so thankful to Reba that she would consider the Choctaw Nation a partner. For us, she is the managing partner. I mean, her team is. And so we're really just kind of an investor in that. And so for us, I laugh about it because it's one of the best deals ever, because rather than us going in and investing 100%, we get to invest in 50%, get a name recognition like Reba. Again, if we would have done it, we would have had to spend all of our money, and then we would have had to invest in another project, Now other people are starting to invest. And so for us, for our small investment, to bring that growth to Atoka, to me, that's a win-win situation. As a matter of fact, anybody else in the state of Oklahoma that wants to do that, we're open for business for sure.
Yeah, is Kingston within your kind of jurisdiction?
That's in the Choctaw Nation.
Never mind then. I'm joking, because I know I passed the sign on the way down here, and I was like, pretty sure that's where Blake Sheldon's at. Probably right now. No, probably he's on the water somewhere. Never mind. There's so many ways and ways that you can get involved, but it's nice to have the creative side, right? Most people, if you look back over the history, it's the safer way, right? It's and I'm sure there's famous people that businesses and nations have partnered with over the years, but a name like Reba with her hometown and the restaurant, it's special, right?
Yes, it is. And I give the city of Atoka, they're the ones that pitched it to Reba. They're the ones that really wanted to sell her on this and talk about the facility and so on. So it's been a great partnership, not just with Reba. I mean, it's awesome, but then with the city of Atoka and just what they're able to do as a community.
Yeah.
To come together. And you mentioned earlier about infrastructure and so on. I think we just have to accept with growth, there's always going to be these, I call them wonderful challenges, and some people would call them problems. But, so parking's become an issue now. Guess what? The property around there, the leasing is starting to go up. And so all those things, but at the end of the day, it's greater for the greater good of the economy, and it will be best in the long run. But I know in the short term, it's always difficult because nobody wants to see that change, whether it's Hoge Town, whether it's Atoka, and I would even include myself in that. I always say I'm the world's worst hypocrite because I love Southeastern Oklahoma. I love the Choctaw Nation Reservation. Of course, it's quiet, it's calm, it's not Dallas, it's not New York, and I love that about it. Yeah. But at the same time, I want my kids, I want my grandkids to have opportunities in this area to stay home. Well, to do that, we're going to have to take these risks and challenges.
Right. Yeah, and you said, like I said earlier, like it's in rural Oklahoma, but to that point, it's peaceful, it's quiet, it's beautiful. The summer is coming. There's so many places in Choctaw country that, I know the travel department's doing a great job of promoting all those places, but there's so many that we don't need to jump on a plane anymore to go to, right?
Exactly.
You can hop in the car, you can drive down there. You guys are lucky because it's less than, it's very close to you guys. Carlton Landing, would that be one of them as well?
No, that's it within our district. Yes, it is within our
because that's
Choctaw
growing
Nation
too, right?
Do what?
That's growing a lot as well.
Oh yes, it has grown through. I've watched that development through years. The mayor, former mayor of Oklahoma City, his son's the one that
Humphreys. Is that who's? Is it?
I think yes.
Humphrey family. That's right.
Yes, they're the ones that started that, and it's been great to see the growth of that. And so I think even COVID highlighted though that people wanted to get out, wanted that. And so the thing that I would encourage people to do more than ever right now is to get involved. And the reason why I would say to get involved, this growth is coming, whether we like it or not. Dallas market's pushing us. Oklahoma City's, the economy's starting to grow there. Tulsa's starting to grow there. And so my point being is if we don't shape it the way we want it, it's going to come and it's going to become something that we don't want. I personally believe that we can still keep this peaceful, harmonious area wonderful if we grow it right. I know I use Branson a lot as an example. I remember the first time I went there that it was very rural. Now the traffic is so horrible. It's like the worst city to drive around in. And my point being is I think we can balance both. Even like at Hoge Town, one side's the lake. I can see the other side for growth, for future development, not on the lake, so we can keep our lake and our forest, pristine.
Yeah. And the good thing is kind of because it hasn't gone, you kind of not working with a blank canvas, but you can, work it into the model, right? You don't have to be like, okay, well, this is what we're dealing with. We're just going to have to put a stoplight in or whatever it is. Exactly. You can kind of build, and there's room to build, and you can kind of, put a ring road in if you need to, or a turnpike, or whatever it is, We
have this ability to have this, I call it a green slate, to really look at. Most of the times, if you're going, even here in Durant, even though it's not the biggest city, but you start saying, well, okay, where are we going to build the next school? Where are we going? It starts getting limited. Yeah. Where are we going to put the next housing development?
Yeah, there's a lot to think about.
Yes, there is.
There's a lot to think about that most people don't even think about, right? Like, it's obviously tax dollars drive, law enforcement, fire, ambulance, and you need that, especially if people play in the lake or they fall or whatever it is. The air ambulance is not cheap.
Exactly.
Right? And it's tough for them to land anywhere near those cabins too.
Most people don't even think about zoning and compliance.
Sure.
Most people hate compliance.
Yeah.
But the reality is, do you want to start a town where you have $1 million investment and then something that's not near as good as investment? It just starts depreciating all those things.
Yeah. The other thing I think we should talk about, and one of the main reasons that we're sitting together again is through the Choctaw Cultural Center and just partnering with the podcast and everything, and how how important it is, obviously, for you guys to have that center, but also how important it is just to keep, you mentioned culture and history and the language earlier. You've got to maintain these things as well. And having a place like the cultural center as, kind of the home for that.
Well, and it serves two purposes for us. One is definitely to keep our culture and history alive, because I keep telling everybody, this is the first time we as Choctaw people tell our story from our perspective. Yeah. In the past, it's always been somebody that has observed us and said the Choctaw people are, or they do, and so on. So it's preservation of our culture and history. The other part is just from an economic perspective. I think there is a huge fascination with the Native American culture that people want to learn. They want to know what a tribe is. How does a tribe exist? How does a sovereign nation live within a state, within a United States of America, and just how all does that work? And I think that's just something that people are not aware of, and they're not able to learn about it. That's the reason why we started that facility. And just to let you know, I've been fortunate, I call it blessed, is that there was a small animation show not too long ago, Spirit Rangers, that I was able to be a part in. And one of the things that the lady Shelley Dennis that wrote that article, I actually coached her when she was younger. Oh, wow. And in the summer program, she's the same age as my daughter and so on. But she's a writer out in LA now. But the part that we chose was to talk about was that, not all chiefs or governors look the same. We don't have headdresses. I am a modern day Choctaw chief. And so what does that mean? Well, it means I have to be a businessman, but I also have to continue to focus and never forget our culture and history, but I have to be able to balance those things. And so anyway, my point being is just trying to get people into the lives and minds, hearts of who we are as Choctaw people and what we represent, and how do we fit into society, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That was the Netflix show that was on,
yes.
that had some news article come out recently, and the character, the cartoon character as well.
Yes.
What was that like when you get that phone call?
Oh, it was, of course, I love it because it gives me an opportunity to highlight our culture and history. It's really not about me, but and then, of course, also, I keep saying these mean so much to me because they're about full circle, and for me to think about Shelley Dennis, I helped coach from Clayton, Oklahoma, small town, to now she's a writer in LA, and to see her success, that just does my heart so good, and to know her family, her mom and dad, and so on. So that part is the part that really excited me. To tell our story excited me. To do it was a little odd. Of course, we did it just in a sound booth here at our headquarters. And so at that time, there was just 3. I saw them on the iPads, and they were telling me of course, I knew my lines. But what's interesting, I didn't know enough about the story, though, to, when somebody say, have a good day. So do you say, have a good day? Or do you go, have a good day? Have a good day. It's just, and so it's really hard to understand. But in a sound booth, it's interesting for me. When I'm in a sound booth, I can hear my voice better than I can right now. So I'm, as you can tell, I move my hands a lot. I inflect by my hands and gestures way more than I do by my voice. And so I had to learn to use my voice to inflect about what I was trying to get across.
Yeah.
So, but it was a great time, though.
Yeah, you need that context, right?
Yes,
how
you do.
What volume range do you need this? How excited do you need me to be right now? And I guess, you're right. It is tough because no one sees you, right? Because it's a voiceover. So, you might be doing this with your hands, and they're like,
you might go, oh man, in my eyes, I'm excited.
Yeah.
But does that really come across? And one thing I found out about myself is that mine has to be really heartfelt. It's hard for me to say I'm excited when I'm not really. You have to be excited.
You have to
get excited.
Yeah. Do with obviously the show and just kind of that personal interaction as well. Like that's really nice to have that and have that full circle moment. Oklahoma now is kind of, we're in the movie business, right? The trailer for The Killers of the Flower Moon came out recently. It looks amazing. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic movie. Scorsese doesn't really make bad movies.
Exactly.
So I think it's going to be great. But is there any kind of just, future plans or just looking down the road at, hey, we want to be involved in this as well? Are you currently involved? Like, how does that fit in with just kind of the general, the plan for, yourself, and also fit in with just the business too, right? Because you have so many things that you're dealing with. It's not just, it's another idea, it's another business to start to get in the movie business. So.
Well, I was fortunate also this last year to go play a small part in a film, and it's going to be a Marvel film, and it's about a Native American, our first Native American hero. Can't really get into a whole lot about it at this point in time, but I think for me, the part that I took away from that was to see there was 4 of us in front of the camera. There was like 100 behind the camera. Yeah. And so and I just thought, man, and this, I felt very blessed because they used our cultural team to do the consulting on it because they wanted it to be authentically Choctaw. So we also had some of our people that does beadwork and so on. So I believe that there's an opportunity for our people are very artistic, very talented. I think they could do lighting. I think they could do sound. They could do, whether it's dress, they could do all those things. I think there's a great opportunity for us. I went down and met with Taylor Sheridan, and that was part of the reason why too, to meet with him, is to see, also ask a group of 5 people that's been from our education's team to go, what do we need to do as a tribe to attract them here, but more importantly, expose our people to that industry. Because again, I think if they would get involved in it, I think they would enjoy it, and I think they could become really good at it. They could probably work all across maybe all across America, who knows. And so we're in the process of looking at what, of course, we know incentives always get people here. That's the easy one. If you just give money, people will come. But then also you need to make sure and have people you need food. If you're out in a very remote location, you have to have people to cater. So it's basically, I think we have the elements, not only in the Choctaw Reservation, but in the state of Oklahoma. I think people believe that we don't. Now, if you start getting too specialty, my understanding, like with Sylvester Sloan, he had a certain type of drink that he wanted. When I say drink, not a bad drink, but just I can't remember if it was like a fruit drink or something that they just could not get. And so it's making sure that we have those things available. So my point is, I think we're going to have to build that capacity and then promote it. And then I think we can get that industry here in Oklahoma and then expose our people to that as well.
Yeah. And before we started recording, we were chatting, I just kind of asked you how things are going and what what's kind of current and not, and obviously the rising costs for people's living. Living cost is a huge problem, and you mentioned having to figure out new ways to raise an additional $32 million. Well, that could be one of them, right? There's plenty of businesses that you have to start to get to $32 million.
Exactly.
It's not just a bunch of casinos, but it is, you get to be creative and kind of just, I'm sure just sitting in a room with so many creative people saying, how do we do this, right? And you just sit back and people pitch ideas. I mean, that's an exciting time. It's fun to be around because maybe in 10 years you remember those ideas and now they're a business, right? And they're producing and they're making money and, helping people with their living costs.
Well, and I think it's, we're in a great time within the Choctaw Nation. I always say great, challenging maybe, I'm not sure. The reason why I think it's great is we have these opportunities before us. And also in the past, what we typically got was people that wanted to pitch us ideas and get our money. I would say get our money. Now I feel like we have people that's aligning with us because of our values, and those businesses are 10 times better. It's about what we're good at. And I feel 10 times better about going after those things. So for me, I feel like those doors are starting to open up for us. And it is good to start meeting with other creative people that's like-minded, like-valued, and so on about betterment of our tribal members and the state of Oklahoma, as well as financial. And to be able to have those opportunities, I think there's a lot available to us in the future.
Yeah. So, sort of coming towards an end, we're sat in your office. There's a lot of really cool memorabilia and stuff around, and I'm sure you get given gifts a lot. And I think I asked you this question the last time, what's the best gift you've been given? I think it's the shield you mentioned.
Yes.
But we're in the office now. I know people on the video can't see this, but just what are the stuff that we have behind us? Obviously, I see a lot of coins.
Sure.
People, sheriffs and people come and give you coins and stuff, military coins. But what is... tell the people listening kind of what is on the shelves.
Well, of course, people know that I always say our purpose is to live out the Choctaw spirit of faith, family, and culture. So on the wall here, I have Brother Bertram Bob, which was our chaplain for our tribe for many years. And so he serves as a reminder to me that Bertram was a person that never had to say anything. You just knew he was a man of character. He was a man of faith. He just never had to say one word. And so I love that about him, and that's what I aspire to be. Of course, I have pottery. I have basketry. I have all those things throughout. I have woodwork that people's give me. I have stickball sticks. I have beadwork all across. I have various artwork that I have. I have things that also inspire me. In what I mean by that, I think about Gandhi. I see, be the change you wish to see in the world. That really motivates and inspires me. We are a people of miracles. There's a poem that talks about we as the Choctaw people, that's who we are. Also, I think back here where I've been very blessed. I've met President Bush, President Obama, President, who else do I have? President Trump. And so is that the 3 presidents that I have up there? And then, President Biden, of course, current president, been able to meet those 4 presidents. And then Colin Powell, which I always was a fan of. I got to meet him at a training session before that I had went to. And then, of course, one of the things when I talk about faith, family, culture, then I have pictures of my family. Just my wife and my kids and my grandkids, near and dear to me. I have pictures of some of my friends and so on. But, of course, I have the U.S. flag. I have the OU football. You got to have the OU football there, right? And then I was fortunate we have a tribal member that is also a player on the Kansas City Chiefs that gave me a football. And so that's just glancing around the room of some of the things. And of course, also when I say faith, I have a Choctaw hymn book. I have an English Choctaw Bible. We Are the First Code Talkers, have that book here. Our Impact on Ireland, our Choctaw Dictionary. So there's just all those things that, for me, just help me remind me of who I am and what I'm here for and what I'm supposed to be doing. It's very near and dear to me, and I appreciate people has given me things, and I try to change things out, but I just try to keep those things that are, like I said, that kind of motivate, inspire me, and remind me, and humble me. I remember, I just think about like my family. It's just no matter. I think there's no better honor than to be a papa, and to be a husband. To be a dad. Those things are important.
Yeah, it's I'm 32 years old. In our culture, generally back home in the UK, it's you have kids a little later than most people out in Oklahoma. It's like as soon as you graduate, if you've met your wife, you're probably gonna have kids. And, some people in their 30s now have like 12-year-olds running around. But and I've always kind of always had the idea. My mum and dad have always when you going to have grandkids, and when are we going to get grandkids and all this stuff. And I'm like just been like not really about it, maybe. And then I think recently, it must be like just an age thing, because recently I've been seeing people and chatting to people and just picking up on little things that you say, and like you just said there's no greater honor to be a dad and a papa and a father. And I'm like, you're right. Like I'm extremely selfish, and I want to play golf as much as possible, right?
But you can with your son.
But I can with my son. But you're right. The thought of just
daughter,
having a screaming child in front of me is like puts me off every time. But I think you're right. Like there's so much going on in the world, right? There's so many things to worry about. There's whether it's money or health or whatever. There's so many things that we can. You look at social media, the world is screaming and it's on fire. But when you kind of bring it down to, the core values that you mentioned and just the main things, and, just people who are sitting there, maybe they're driving to work listening to this, and they're a parent, right? And, they think of that. I think of my parents, and it makes me emotional all the time. But, I'm like, that is super, it's special, right? I think we take it for granted.
Yes, we do. Right? And I think that's the reason why, for me, I've just always been blessed, but I'll share with you my life story. So, impacting lives is really important to me. And so those things do get very serious. And my son, for example, he and his wife, they don't plan on having any children. They don't care to have any children. I'm just like, so, I don't mean it bad, but I'm just like, so who are you wanting to impact in life? And he's like, well, I just I don't know that he even worries about that. And that might be the age, because he's 30, and I was trying to think.
That's how I was for a long time.
But at 28, I built our first hospital for the Choctaw Nation. So I just it's hard for me to not think about that. But anyway, it's I just hope, and I have faith in your generation and his generation, though, that y'all are the next the great generation after World War II. I believe you all are the next great generation.
Yeah,
that will change our world for the better.
Yeah, no, I hope so too. And I think, I mean, when I was 30, I was saying the same thing. You know, I'm like, I'm never having kids. I'm just going to go play golf whenever I want, travel the world, and have my dogs, and that's it. And that's changed in 2 years. We don't plan to have kids anytime soon, but you know, it's a lot more kind of. I guess I'm accepting it a lot more now because of catching on to things like what you just said and others have said. And like, you know, another quote or another thing I picked up on, it was that this guy was talking, and, you know, he was talking about his grandparent, his grandmother. And, you know, he's sat at his grandmother's birthday, and like they're in the house, and, you know, there's 30 people in the house, and he's just looked around. It's like everybody's here because of that one woman. You know, and we take it for granted. We just don't think about it, but it's super special.
Well, and you know, I think though that the maturity part, I think you all have right. And because see, Angie and I was 26 years old when we adopted Stacy, so, and she was 9. And I think about poor her, and the reason why I say poor her, because I became such a better parent after I got into my 30s and so on. And my friends, one of my friends anyway, his that's a doctor, he didn't have his first child till he was 36. And so his son is the same age as my grandson, even though we're the same age. Yeah. And so it's just interesting though, but I do think the older you get, the better parent you are. So that's probably a good thing.
I hope so. I hope so one day. So we're currently recording on a Friday. It's Friday afternoon. You know, if people are ever going to come to Durant and they're coming on a Friday or a weekend, where are they going for dinner? Where should they go? Where does the chief recommend that they eat dinner, and then maybe breakfast tomorrow morning? Well, in Durant, that is.
Well, for me here in Durant, of course, there's no better place than to go to our casino. And what's one is because if you're looking for entertainment, you're going to have entertainment. You can go to our 1832 Steakhouse, which is a wonderful place to go. You can go to our Salt and Stone. And of course, if you just want something, you can go to Smash Burgers. You can go to some of our quick places like that. But it's also for family. And the reason why I say that, it's just not gaming. We have our movie theater. We have bowling. We have all those types of things. You can get up the next day. You can have breakfast at Salt and Stone or at any of our restaurants there. You can go over to our cultural center and visit our cultural center. And so to me, that would be a fun-filled weekend. And I would encourage everybody, please go downtown Durant. Downtown, we've got a lot of beautiful boutiques where you can get great dresses for the ladies. You can get great dress or menswear. So, and not only that, but just unique things that you don't get to see in other places. So I think, to me, that would be just a fun-filled weekend to come and do that. My wife and I don't even get to do that very often, and to come down and just stay and we do every so often just to get to enjoy some of the things that we have just right here at home, if you will.
Great. Well, again, I want to thank you for an hour, 45 minutes to an hour of your time. I really appreciate you carving that out for us. I'm glad I came down. It's great to come down. It's always, it's much better than maybe recording over Zoom. And obviously we took full advantage when you were coming up to Oklahoma City in November for our first episode. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Hopefully I say this right. Yakoki. Okay, got it right. And I can write it.
And I couldn't remember if I shared this with you last time. Chipisa la Chiki.
Chipisa la Chiki.
Oh, okay. That's Chukma. That means good.
Okay.
Chipisa la Chiki is there's no word for goodbye in Choctaw. It just means until we see each other again.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate that as well. Chipisa la.
Chipisa la Chiki.
Chipisa la Chiki. Okay, super.
Chukma.
Let's finish with that. Thank you so much. For people listening, I will put all the links in the description that we mentioned and that you need to go to, and also the link to the episode that we did the first time, which is episode 475, which is all of the Chief's story. So thanks so much for listening. We will catch you next episode. Cheers. Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Choctaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is presented by the Choctaw Nation. The Choctaw people have a rich history and a bright future. At the Choctaw Cultural Center, you can take part in a story 14,000 years in the making. Stroll through our immersive exhibits portraying Choctaw life from the moment our ancestors emerged from the Nani Wehi in Mississippian homelands to the Trail of Tears, where we lost so many loved ones, and finally to the modern-day tribe making a positive impact on local communities throughout southeastern Oklahoma. Try your hand at our social dancing and stickball and learn more about our vibrant culture through demonstrations, workshops, and classes. The kids will have a blast in our Luxie Activity Center. The Choctaw Cultural Center is more than a museum. It's a living, breathing experience. Visit choctawculturalcenter.com to plan your visit.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.